Okay, everything's fine. I've started early because I wanted to watch myself on the channel. Okay, it has started, but I can't see it on the channel. Doesn't matter. If you're waiting, I'm just doing some technical stuff before we get to 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock London time. Yeah. Why can't I see it? Don't know, don't care. TN Tarot is live, okay. Ah, here we go. Okay. Hi there from Rio. Anna Louisa. Hello, Anna Louisa. Hello, it's Kay, otherwise known as Miss Booksmith. Hi, Miss Booksmith. Well, we're all a bit early today, aren't we? I was just doing some technical stuff because last time something frightful happened and I couldn't see myself here on the phone. So I had to plug myself in there on the laptop, which is disturbing because the laptop is about 30 seconds delay from what I'm actually doing and saying. So I think that's why these conversations are often a little bit kind of like slowed down, because I think it takes about 30 seconds for everything I say to go out. I'm waving to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm waving to, no, it's not 30 seconds. It's about a 6-second delay. Okay, we can deal with that, can't we? This is funny. We've suddenly been joined by 30 people, 34. What's happened? The algorithm has gone mad. Hello, everyone. Jorge Montoya, 666. I'm so blind these days. 6586 said hi. Jorge, hey man, what's up? Well, here I am. I look slim. Is that slang for like, I don't know, clever or hot? You can't see my tummy. How do you know I'm slim? But anyway, thank you for saying that. It sounds nice. Why no one liking the stream? Yes, indeed. Why is no one? That's a good question. If you're liking it, give me a thumbs up. That's strange. The internet seems to be funny today because there's sort of people I can see when it says how many people are watching. People are like flooding in and flooding out again. It was like 9, then it was 35, and then it went back down to 13. It's going up and down. Maybe I've kind of like somehow hit a certain part of the algorithm and it's confusing everyone. Can you play some Sudoku for us? No, I can't. Are you a genuine tarot fan, or are you here to disrupt the stream, Mr. Tremendioso? Everyone's doom scrolling and I found you. Well, let me explain. This is a channel called Tea and Tarot, and I talk to my subscribers about once a month. And we sometimes do tarot readings, but sometimes we talk about tarot cards. Yeah, it's tarot. That cannot be your real hair. No, obviously not. It's a staging. I mean, this isn't the view outside my window, is it? You know, and this isn't my skin. And today I'm going to be talking to people about the book I'm writing about tarot. So I am a tarot reader, have been all my life. I'm a researcher. I know a fair amount of about tarot. I've read about 30 books, and I'm writing a book myself. So I'm hoping today to talk to some of my subscribers about my book, and to bounce some ideas off them and see what they think, because that would be very valuable to me. I'm probably going to publish it myself, and then if there's some feedback from the subscribers, then it'll be a better book. I want to know what sort of tarot book people want. So that's what we're going to do for the next hour. We haven't actually started yet. We start at 6 o'clock English time. Tremendioso. I don't believe in that stuff. Can you maybe give me a convincing case? Not really, not in a live stream. If you were sitting here, I would read your cards. This is more of an enthusiast's channel. It's not really, it doesn't exist to what's the word? Evangelize tarot as such. But you know, if you ever find yourself actually interested, then maybe we could have a conversation. Saskia, hi, and hi everyone. So I will start off with some tarot cards. No, I won't. It's 2 minutes to, we'll wait. Again, if you've just joined, the subject of this stream is going to be my book, my forthcoming book. Let's get it up on the Jelly Web. How is everyone? I'm based in Berlin. It's a nice day. It's a week and 1 day after Berlin Gay Pride, where we had an attack. That was disturbing, but everyone I know is fine. And I got some nice messages from people, so thank you for that. Okay, the clock has struck 7, which is 6 in English time, so we're off. Here is the reading for today's live stream. And this is my card. That's the card of the audience. So I'm in quite good shape. I'm open-minded, the Fool there. And 6 of Pentacles, apparently on the surface of it, the audience is in fairly good shape, feeling fairly generous and fairly open and ready to dive into the conversation. But the main card for the live stream is a 5 of Rods, which is a struggle. And so I was interested to know why that card was there. So I took 2 more cards and I got the 8 and the High Priestess. So we have swiftness there and the hidden. So it does make me feel that there might be an underlying disturbance with this live stream. And my advice here is Knight of Swords, which is the belligerent card. So I shall be defending my quarter if I feel that the live stream is going off the rails. Okay. So to recap, the subject of today is my tarot book. It's in 4 parts. It's not finished. I've been writing it for about 4 or 5 years now. I started off collaborating with a friend who's not a tarot writer, but he's a creativity writer. And I wanted to team up with him because he had self-published quite successfully. That's a guy called Michael Atterval. He writes about art, creativity, brainstorming, and things like that. And so Michael and I worked on this book throughout the pandemic. We had strange meetings in London where we had to sit, 6 feet or 2 meters away from each other and talk about the book, which was very weird. And he wrote half a book, half a short book, and I wrote half a short book. And we even put it all together with graphics. But about a year ago, Michael's art practice got a bit more busy. He's an artist, and he got some really interesting gigs to exhibit some of his art, and he had to go back into his old files, and some of them were quite old. He had to get some new technology to open the files and stuff. And so he got really busy, and so he regretfully left this book project. Right. So I've been writing this book between about 2021 and 2025 or something, sort of right through the pandemic and out the other side. Hi, Nick. I'm just explaining about my tarot book, and what it's really about, because I'd love some feedback, if that's going to work. So I've been writing this book with Michael from about 21 to 25. So Michael left the project, and then I suddenly thought, well, this book kind of comes out of the person I was in 2021. And as you all know, I've been reading and reviewing tarot books for the past 6 years on this channel. And so really, with every year that goes by, my understanding of tarot has gone up. Also, I've been doing these live streams. I've been reading for people. I've been reading for myself. I've been reviewing decks and so forth. So even though I've been reading tarot cards since I was really young, like since the 80s, it's in the last 5 years that my understanding of tarot cards and the history of tarot cards has really become much deeper. And also, I feel like I have formed my own personal idea about how this should be done, to the extent that I now feel I have something very definite to say. And so you probably know that I'm against tarot books that are too complicated, that make it sound more complicated than it should be. I'm against Rachel Pollack's 78 Degrees of Wisdom. This is one of my kind of, something that I kind of like bounce off slightly. And by the way, we got an interesting reading, by the way, folks, about this live stream, that there might be disruptions. So, yeah, let's see. Okay, that's dealt with that one. So if anyone is disruptive during this live stream, this is my channel. It's a bit like being king of a certain part of the world, and I can just press a button and hide your comments. And that's that. Okay, so that just happened. But what did I say? A little demonstration of the glory of tarot reading there. So I got to the point in the writing of this book where Michael very gracefully left the project, and I was left with half a book on my computer that I had written. But this half book now felt like it was a bit, in my terms, a bit out of date in terms of my ideas. So I decided that I wouldn't just take the material that I'd written when Michael was in the project. I would basically just put that in a drawer and start with a completely blank sheet of paper. And so I just sat down without any reference to the first draft and started to rewrite the book this year. So I have about 20,000 words. I think tarot books are quite short. They tend to be about, 30,000 words. In other words, about half the length of a short novel. And then you've got your pictures of tarot cards, and they're quite short. And so I'm kind of like 2/3 of the way through the book, maybe 3/4. I don't want to pad it out, okay? Now, I also think that when if you're against books that overcomplicate tarot, then maybe keeping things short and simple is part of the brand. So with that in mind, I think it could be quite a short book. So you know that when you buy a pack of tarot cards, you get a little white book with the tarot cards. And I've always thought these little white books, people make fun of them because they can be quite superficial. They give like 1 or 2 word meanings for each of the cards. And then they give a little history of tarot, and it's often wrong, And so they're not very expert productions sometimes. But some little white books are quite good. There was a tarot called, I think, the Ghetto Tarot, with an excellent little white book. And I've always thought that actually you don't need big, thick, complicated books in order to read tarot. You could just have a pretty good little white book with a few keywords, and then you could be intuitive. CS102, thank you. I'm a bit on the defensive today because I feel that for some reason the algorithm is showing this live stream to. Well, there was a moment when it showed this live stream across a wide number of people's feeds for some reason, and like 30 people suddenly came on board, and then most of them left. But I got a couple of slightly strange messages, one of which I had to delete, and so I'm just centering myself. But yeah, I'm talking about the book, and I'm saying that I like little white books because they're short and because they don't drive you mad like some books which I could mention. This is great. You guys, you're giving me feedback. Saskia says, the simpler and shorter the better. Looking forward to a book, Robert. Fantastic. Well, and now we come to my first revelation, which I was thinking that it could be called The Big Little White Book. What do you think? And it wouldn't necessarily be big, but it would be slightly bigger than a little white book, because obviously a little white book would be quite disappointing for everyone. It would be very little, wouldn't it? But it could be the shape of a tarot card, which is also the shape of a little white book, but it could be sort of like blown up slightly. So that would be like probably a medium-sized book in terms of format. But it would, thank you. Travel box, thank you. So exactly, so this is my thought, that the title would actually support what I'm trying to say, is that what we need is, what we really need is 78 really good, really workable keywords, which have come out of my practice. I've been reading tarot for, 45 years, something like that, 46, 47 years. And I've thought about these keywords a lot. And I know there's no right and wrong about keywords, but I want to give people a basis, because I don't think reading tarot is rocket science. I think it's a matter of starting with keywords and then, in a sense, running with it and being intuitive. So I'll tell you exactly how it's going to be structured in a second. But this thing of simplicity, and I think I've done very good work on the court cards, so I would be able to offer very good advice, but all the advice would be quite concise. Okay. And I wouldn't go into this thing of, for example, these long chapters about Jungian psychology and how the major arcana is this journey to enlightenment, from the fool to the magician to the high priestess. You can do that if you want, but that's not the method that I'm teaching. And you have different methods of acting, you have different methods of, I don't know, dancing. You can teach these things in different ways. You can have different attitudes. There's different methods of fitness, and I want to teach a method of tarot reading, which is just the one that I think is good and fairly painless, and I think it's fairly modern. In other words, you don't drown in information. You don't drown in all this esoteric background. You surf it. You can have a bit of esoteric knowledge if you want, but you don't need it. Rolf Mattson says, sounds like A5 format. Yeah. Let's see. I mean, this is Alfred Douglas. Actually, that's quite big, but that's actually sort of kind of a bit standard. Might be too big. This is the pictorial key to the tarot. That's slightly bigger. CS12, I love the name, and there is enough space for one's own intuitive sparks or sparkles. It's absolutely right. I mean, a lot of people have given exercises and pointers that you can do in order to learn how to read tarot cards, but it so isn't rocket science. You put the cards on the table and you look at them, and then you make up stories with those cards. And as you make up the stories, hopefully you channel some messages from, wherever they're coming from. Okay, here we have Anna Louisa. Are you just providing keywords? I feel showing sample readings may help beginners a lot. Some cards from different questions, for instance. Okay, no, I'm not just providing keywords. As I say, I've got about 20,000 words here already. And I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'll go into more detail. And by the way, this is a nice format here. And this is the A.E. Waite book, which I don't really recommend, but I quite like the formatting of it. So you've got a card there, which we could have, and then some stuff about the card, which for me is already too much. The Alfred Douglas book, which I quite liked, was more like this. Maybe the book's too big, but you'd have your card there, and then you'd have a very, very small paragraph there, which, as I say, I think may even be still too much. But what I'm doing is this. I've got part one, which is called, I think it's called something like Starting Out. Yeah, part one is called Keep It Simple. So it's what I would like to give to someone who was really, really just starting out. And in part one, I try to do the keywords, one keyword per card. And I give some instructions about how you can prepare a little bit, what you can say to your friends if you're going to read their tarot, how you can be careful with certain cards. So I do some essential spreads, the WhatsApp spread, the relationship spread. And then the horseshoe spread. And those are just, so I give the beginner 3 spreads. And then as an exercise, a long-term exercise, I suggest coloring in the tarot, which I think is a great exercise. You get the templates, you color them in. It might take you 6 months, however long you like, and then you really, really get close to the cards. And then chapter 5, some safety rules for tarot reading. Okay, so that's beginners. That's your first weeks with the tarot. And then I have part 2. It's called Relax Into It. Hello, Indigo. So this is now, you're up and running. You've been just using a very, very simple list of keywords for a few months or however long it is. And then I start to give you some more information. And what I'm trying to do is reading this book needs to be like a bit like going on a course, so that I feed you the information in a way that doesn't confuse you. Okay. So I talk about the background of the tarot bit. I bring some history in, and I talk about the various esoteric ideas that have been attached to tarot. And I talk about the danger of making it too complicated. Then I give keyword clusters, and this is based on a video of mine. I did 78 keywords, and then a month later I did 78 keyword clusters. So instead of giving you one word per card, I now give you about 10, 12, half a dozen words. So in other words, I give a little description of the card in 1 or 2 or maybe 3 sentences, but I keep it as brief as I can. So again, I'm not overloading it. For example, I say here the Emperor. Rules, full stop. Law, full stop. Authority, stability. The fundamental structures of society and human interactions. And that's actually one line on my computer. I try not to go off on tangents talking about this and that little detail, Justice, fairness, balance, the power of thought to solve problems. So it gives you a little bit of nuance, right? But I'm really, really trying not to say too much. And I also start to say a little bit more about the court cards and the pips. So then in this intermediate section, I give some stories about reading tarot in my life, talk about my theory that it is really a kind of channeling. Then I make a little joke. I say you can call it channeling if you want. I say if it's not fun, don't do it. And I give some more spreads. I give searching the deck, and all the variations on searching the deck. I give the self-generating spread, which I use in my monthly readings, where you first ask the tarot what the questions are, and then you ask the tarot what the answers are, which I think I invented myself. But it's not rocket science. And the lantern spread, which I invented recently. And then I start to talk about reversals. And I think, because I don't use traditional reversal meanings, because I find them too negative. And I then talk about how to read reversals just by taking the upright reading and then transforming it. But I talk about how to do that without making it too negative. CS102 says, you can also refer to your channel and make a playlist for your... Okay. Book. That's very good. Thank you. Refer to the channel. So that when the book comes out, the channel is clearly still going to be there. I mean, things are there forever on YouTube, aren't they? And I've done so much work with this channel that there is a huge amount of information on the channel. That's right. Incidentally, if you weren't here at the beginning, I'm thinking of calling this book The Big Little White Book, because that's a reference to my belief that little white books are very helpful. The other possibility is just to call it Tea and Tarot. which again would sort of very much refer to this channel. So I'm not sure. I think The Big Little White Book is a better title. Anna Louisa, keeping it clean and simple. I like it. If you have extra space on the page, you may leave lines for the reader and their insights. Fantastic. So extra space on the page. In other words, big margins. And I like books with big margins. So yeah, then I talk about how to do reversals. So I'm thinking at this stage in the book that I might offer 78 just sample reversal meanings, but I don't want people to take them as gospel. I think we should really make up our own reversals. Like, if you think that the world card means completion, then you could say, okay, reversed world, incompletion, you know? If you think the 10 of batons means a burden, then you could say reverse 10 of batons, oh, it's not a burden. And this way of doing it is a bit lighter. And I just want to demonstrate, if I might give like my 78 personal reversals meanings, just to demonstrate how I'm always looking for how to make things lighter. Sometimes reversed meanings make a heavy card worse, you know. Like poor Alfred Douglas here, he said that the 10 of swords traditionally means ruin. And sure, okay, fair enough. Which I think is already too heavy. And then he has as the reversed meaning, oh, the false dawn, you know, things are going to get better and they're not, they're going to get worse, which is like doubly depressing. Whereas for me, a reversed 10 of swords means it's not the end of the world. You know, it's not ruin. It's just not, it's reversed. So for me, a reversal negates the card. But I'd like to demonstrate how you can negate the card in a positive, and always try to do it as positively as possible. CS 102, Tea and Tarot as a subtitle. I could, I quite like, I might need to have a subtitle which is clearer, because I might have to really sell this in the marketplace. You know, it might have to be something like how to give simple, concise readings, or maybe a bit more jokey. It might have to be something like tarot without tears, which is a suggestion that came up from one of you guys in a live stream once. I think Tea and Tarot is either the main title or it's not, but it would certainly be present, because then, you know, somewhere in the first pages or on the back, it would say, I'm Robert from Tea and Tarot. Indigo, I love what I have heard so far. Being both a reference and having a workbook course style is great, much needed. I started with Tarot 101, but I found it a challenge to stick with. The Big Little White Book, fantastic. I get that, great. Yeah. It's not going to be an all-out workbook where I give exercises. That's because with those books, though they can be nice, I tend to always skip the exercises. But it is a workbook in that I feed information in an order which I think is helpful. Okay, I'm just talking to you about part 2. I then talk about my yin-yang rule. It's not really something I invented, but this thing I do that if more than 50% of the cards that initially go down are reversed, I reverse the whole meaning, okay? And this again is another way of pulling things away from from reversals. And I mean, there is some traditional backup for that practice. But on top of that, I think that if you have a contract with your spirit guides or with your higher brain, you can do what you want. Anna Louisa, are you going to incorporate the idea of context and how to deal with it in the readings? I remember when I started with that issue, it was quite a challenge to handle. I agree that context is, in a sense, a huge part of what people talk about. And I feel that it can be quite a confusing thing. Tarot writers say, well, of course, it's very traditional, like this guy, the Victorians. They used to say, well, of course, the meaning of this card very much depends on the cards that are around it. And you think, oh my God, it depends on the cards that are around it. That's so complicated. But I think another way of putting it is this, that you can just relax and you can look at 3 cards on the table and you can just, maybe we'll do some examples here, and you can just ask yourself, what does that suggest, And if you do that, then you are doing, you're doing context. I'm going to cut the pack and take the first 3 cards that come off the deck. There's 3 cards that just came up, and this is not a reading, but it's just to talk about context. Now, what you could say, and I'm not even going to try very hard here because I'm not reading for anyone, but this is how I read as often as quickly as I can. You could say happiness is a matter. Happiness relies on having a rest and not focusing on the negative, right? You could say that, and by doing that, you're immediately contextualizing those 3 cards. Because if the 5 of Cups had come up in a different reading in a different place, I would have actually put a different kind of spin on it. It would have slotted into a different part of the sentence, the pronouncement. 4 of Swords might have had a different kind of significance in a different context. So I think rather than write a chapter on context, I might just encourage people to get used to this idea of, in a flowing way, just reading the cards as stories, just allowing them to coalesce, just trusting yourself enough to make up stories based on the cards that you're looking at. And it is during this making up of stories that you allow yourself to channel, or Chanel, as I sometimes call it. Indigo. Okay, it was the exercise bit that I was stuck on and where I gave up a bit. I like the flow from beginner onwards, yes. I don't really like doing exercises with books. I have done it, depending on how seriously I'm taking the book. I don't really like writing in books, but yeah, wide margins if you want to write in my book. Okay, so part 2 of the yin yang rule, and I think we're at the end of, and then part 2, at the end of part 2, I've got some more about difficult cards and positivity. I say you have to be relentlessly positive in your readings, both to yourself and when reading for others. Your role is to help. And then I have a little poem. Never let your tarrowing be harrowing. Okay? Never let your tarrowing be harrowing. I always allow myself a little joke. So then I talk more about how to put positive spin on cards like the Death card, the 3 of Swords, the 5 of Swords, the 7 of Swords, the 8 of Swords, the 9 of Swords, and the 10 of Swords, the Queen of Swords, all these scary cards, and I suggest how you can be positive about them. Did you like it? Okay, so we're in part 3. I hope I'm not boring you guys, but this is very, very useful for me. Part 3 is called Up and Running. Expanding your knowledge. I talk about the tarot writers that I recommend: Paul Hewson, Robert M. Place, Jessica Hundley, Helen Farley, and I think I must talk about Yolanda Robinson, who I love. And then I have a section on the nooks and crannies of the major arcana. Good evening if you've just joined. I'm talking about my book, and just if you want to comment or give me feedback, that's fine. So here, because it's part 3 and you're sort of up and running and you don't mind a bit of extra information, I give about another page on each major arcana card, but I didn't want to start, going off on tangents early on in the book, because I didn't want to fill people's minds up with stories when they're just facing these 78 cards. It's too overwhelming. But in part 3, I start saying things like, well, who is the high priestess? Well, she was the papess. And then I talk about, the tarot was probably invented for a guy called the Duke of Milan. And he was an enemy of the Pope. He went to war with the Pope. His female cousin was part of a conspiracy to set up an alternative church with a female savior called the Juliamites. And this guy's cousin would have been literally the papess had not the actual Pope caught and killed her. So I talk about the background, like some really interesting information about the background of the major arcana cards. But I don't put that early in the book because it's not really important for reading, okay? And I talk about how we shouldn't be too kind of disapproving of cards, like some people they disapprove of the Pope. That's insane. It's a symbol of social acceptance, and all we're doing here is looking for symbolic language. Indigo says, spilling the tea on the tarot. No, not my expensive tarot cards, please. But it's a good title. Thank you. Spilling the tea on the tarot. I quite like it, actually. Can I write it down? May I use your ideas, everybody? Spilling the tea on the tarot. So some more ideas about the major arcana, and then I give some more ideas about the court cards. And I don't want to confuse anyone, but I talk about, I give keywords, keyword clusters, and a little paragraph about each court card, because I did a lot of work on the court cards. Which is your favorite tarot deck? Well, the Rider-Waite-Smith Centennial Edition, I think, is the best working day-to-day deck. The best 21st century deck is a deck called, for me, the Oculi Occultati by a young Polish designer called Radomil Bogusławski. And I have reviewed that. The sad thing about that is it was quite a lavish production. It wasn't very expensive, but it was big format, lovely cards by a London publisher. And they didn't do a second edition. They still haven't done one. It was about probably 10, 14 years ago now, 12 years ago. But I so wish that would be kept in print, because everyone who sees it loves it. It's lovely. Rolf Madsen, some books get stuck in history. It's true. And, there are good history books about tarot, like Helen Farley's book is good. And so I will give you that reference in my book. But there's no point in me writing a tarot history book. That's not my strong point. The Tin Rider-Waite Centennial is very good. So that court cards. Oh, and then at the end of part 3, I talk about my concept of fortune cookie tarot reading, which is, I say that tarot readings don't have to be an hour long. They don't even have to be half an hour long. They don't even have to be 15 minutes long. Personally, I get up in the morning quite a lot and I put down some cards, and it takes about 60 seconds. And clearly I've been doing it for a long time. But what I'm interested in is getting sort of what I call fortune cookie readings, which is another way of saying oracular pronouncements from the tarot. Things like, if you're feeling stuck, get out of the house, or don't be afraid to let yourself shine today, And I find those very, very useful to steady myself, because we change, at least certainly I do. I change every day. I have different moods. I have different priorities. I'm almost like a different person every day on one level. I think that's what the experience of being human is. You have different moods, and the moods change the person you are. And I like using the tarot as a steadying device to connect me with my higher self, saying, okay, Robert, you need to rest today, or okay, Robert, you need to push to get some work done today, or you need to defend yourself today. Like, I did the reading about this live stream before we started, and it warned me that to be prepared to defend myself, and I did, as you will see if you wind back the video. Kavita says, "What do you think about the Thoth tarot?" I can't use the Thoth tarot. I'm not a great fan of it. I've tried very hard to get into Aleister Crowley. I think he's a complicated person, and so to cut a long story short, I only talk about Rider-Waite-Smith tarot reading. So it's Rider-Waite-Smith and Rider-Waite-Smith derivatives, like, for example, Aquarian. So that's what I do. God's Killer. Did you mention who's published it and release date? No, I didn't, because we don't know. But actually, we do kind of know. Who's publishing is probably me. And I think what I'm going to do, because I think it's quite a good method, is that I will go via Kickstarter. So what I'll do is I'll get my partner to design it, and he's a graphic designer as one of his jobs. And so we will go 50-50 on the profits, if there are any profits, though I hope I will just break even. And then I'll present it on Kickstarter, and I will say, okay, I need to raise whatever it is, 2,000 euros, in order to print 500 copies of this book. And you probably know how Kickstarter works. It's a very good method. It's like pre-ordering. People can pledge to buy a copy of the book. Now, it might be 20 euros, dollars, pounds for the book and the postage. And maybe for 30, you can get the book plus an extra, like, tarot reading, or maybe for more than 30. So there'll be various levels. And then at the end of whatever it is, 6 months, we see whether £2,000 has been pledged. And if it has been pledged, I click on the green and the project goes ahead, and I get the money, and then I'm obliged to print and send out the books. And that's really good, because it means that I don't have to risk my money. And it means that if you want the book, you can have the book. The only downside is that I might have to sit in my room putting 500 books into boxes and taking them to the post office. But, that's a small price to pay. I could get a friend to help. And it might not be 500, it might be 200, And when? People think I'm kind of like a retired gentleman. And I suppose I am in a way, because I don't really have much of a career left going for me. I used to be a screenwriter. And I don't really make much money out of this channel. But I'm kind of busy. I have a novel, I have a book of short stories, I have this channel, which is a bit like watering plants. I have to keep this channel alive. So I think I could maybe finish it by Christmas. I've just seen another comment. a donate button. And I could put it on Kickstarter next year. CS102, what do you mean by donate button? But I will tell you a story. That I have this channel on YouTube, okay, and it is monetized. So thank you all very much for that. I've got 3,000 followers and I've got, whatever it is, 4,000 watch hours a year. And as long as it stays over those two, I think you have to have 1,000 followers, don't you? So as long as it stays above that, I get paid for the advertising, and it's not much. It's really not much. It's really not much. It hardly pays for a month's, groceries. Let alone, other things. And I recently started a Substack as a writer of fiction. And this is very modest. It's like once every 3 weeks, I release a short story. And on Substack, they have, you can read for free, or you can have a paying subscription. And to have a paying subscription, the minimum is that you have to click and pay £5 a month. So a friend of mine in California immediately clicked to be a paid subscriber, £5 a month. So he is sort of, what's the word? He's in to pay me $60 a year to support me as a writer of fiction. And my best friend, clicked on and became a founder member, which is like $150 a year. So that's for someone who's like hugely generous. Okay, but I've got 2 paying subscribers on Substack, and between them, that adds up to what, like $210 a year. That's about what I'm getting from YouTube. Maybe a little bit more on YouTube, but it's comparable. And to get that on YouTube, I've got like 3,000 subscribers and like, I don't know, 5,000 watch hours, and I work really hard on this channel. So YouTube is very difficult to make money on unless you become a top YouTuber. Whereas Substack, which is really kind of like a serious writer's platform, I think is easier. So at the moment, I'm more serious about, in a sense, relaunching myself as a fiction writer. I'm financially more serious about that than I am about tarot. And it's not that I don't love tarot, but in life you have to pick your battles. I have to ask, how am I going to pay the grocery bills? And this channel at the moment feels like a hobby. It wasn't meant to be a hobby. It was meant to be a job. In the 90s, I had a job as a tarot reader. I had an advertisement in a magazine called Time Out, and people used to come to my flat for tarot readings, like 5 a day, and it was my job, And when I went back to tarot reading in the pandemic, I thought I'll do that job again. And then I realized that the market for tarot reading has kind of collapsed because of the internet. You can always get a reading for €1 online. So the tarot has not become a job for me. It might become a job if I publish this book successfully, and then, go up to a higher level. Okay, end of rant. CS102. So the people who cheer you on, like me, can donate money, small amount or maybe or more, or a subscribers button on YouTube. Okay. I looked into this with YouTube. CS102, I'm not sure if there is a donate button on YouTube. I know there is a subscribe, it's called members, isn't it, on YouTube? And you can be a member for as little as $1 or $2 a month, I suppose. And that would be nice. But the thing is this, Substack has a very clean system, which basically it's more like donation. You can become a subscriber, and then you get notified every 3 weeks when I release a short story, or you can become a paid subscriber and you just pay. It's a bit, and in that sense, it's like Patreon. But on Substack, you don't necessarily have to provide anything special for your paid subscribers. Whereas in the YouTube, what's the word? In the YouTube setup, you are meant to provide special services for your paid subscribers. And it doesn't feel nice. It doesn't feel okay. With Substack, I had no difficulty. I just said you can be a paid subscriber if you want. You can have you won't get anything extra, but you can support me if you want. There is on my YouTube profile. There's a PayPal link, and you can buy me a coffee on PayPal if you want, and I would be hugely grateful. And sometimes when I do readings during my streamings, I might give someone a 5-minute reading, which incidentally, if anyone wants a reading, I'm available, probably maybe just one before we stop. And then sometimes the people will send me a few bucks via PayPal. But I can't see an easy, elegant way to do that on YouTube. If I'm being silly, just let me know, and I'll have another look at it. But yeah, it's a question, because I understand that there are a lot of people who watch this channel and enjoy it and would maybe support me if it was easy and kind of felt okay. And I mean, it could be $1 a month, and exactly, I would spend it on my grocery bills, and it would be great. So Indigo C333 says super thanks. Again, is that a YouTube thing? Super thanks. And it may be that things have changed since I last checked it out. I think I last checked it out a year or two ago. But as I say, I was pleasantly surprised at the response I got on Substack. And I know that some people do live from Substack. Some journalists live from Substack because, I don't know, maybe there's something about publishing written articles which feels a bit more kind of mainstream than making videos. I understand totally when YouTube not feels clean. Buy me a coffee is perfect. What is your Substack name? Well, I can tell you my Substack name. Maybe I can put it in the chat if I go here. It is a different thing. Join the conversation. YouTube is not allowing me to join my own conversation. Oh, yes, it is. Be warned that as a fiction writer, I'm a different person. I'm more decadent, okay? But you could probably handle that. robertduncanfarah.substack.com. That's my Substack. That's one piece every 3 weeks. Oh, okay, Tara, loving the background color. That is blue crushed velvet. So yeah, my Substack writing is mainly comedy. What I do is I publish something every 3 weeks, and there's short stories, there's chatty things. Occasionally, I might even review a book. It's just started. There are only 2 stories up, and there's one coming up next Friday. But the thing is that each story has a connection with the next. And so, and as it goes on, you see that there is a connection with my autobiography. So it's a bit like a walk through my mind. So you get sort of, little bits of erotica, if you can take it. But I wouldn't say the writing is erotica. The writing is actually literary. So it's more about language and it's more about comedy. As I say, if you can stand, my occasionally decadent imagination. Indigo says, do you use the tarot for your writing? Not directly. Umatron. So like, not directly, but I use it for my life and I use it to help me understand things. And I might even talk about this in the book. Like, for example, you know, I might ask myself something like, what is the relationship in my mind between, off the top of my head, between sexuality and creativity, you know? So I ask the tarot philosophical questions. What is the relationship between politics and comedy? What is the relation? What is my position as a writer in today's culture? Things like that. And so I use it to kind of, I often do those abstract readings before I go to bed at night. If there's something that's, I'm just thinking to myself, well, what is my role in this life? Or for example, I mean, the classic one is, who am I? Or what is my life purpose? And I'm not scared of asking those questions. I don't ask them all the time. A question which is that big, I might ask once a year. But I use the tarot as a part of my life as a creative and an inquiring person. There is, you can use the tarot, for example, to brainstorm an idea for a novel or a screenplay or something. But I find that's a bit too literal, I think I'd rather use the tarot for philosophical questions and then get up in the morning and say, okay, I'm going to write a screenplay about, I don't know, some unemployed people in the north of England who become male strippers, I hated that film. Is the Who Am I spread in the Big Little White Book? Yes, it is. It is. It is. I think so. I'll check. Because who is, I think for the Who Am I spread, I just say, because there's that spread, searching the deck, where you take the deck, like I'm looking for hope. You shuffle the deck, and then you decide that star represents the hope. So you look through the star, and then you see what's on either side of the star, and you say that's where hope is. It's between those two things, and you could say, who am I? And I is going to be represented by the magician. So should we do it now? If I can't stand it, if it's too personal, I won't show you. Who am I? Tell me who I am in such a way that I can share it with the live stream. I'm going to look for the magician. Who am I? In such a way that I'm not embarrassed to say. Magician. And this might be a jokey answer, but okay. Okay. This is what we got. Who am I? Those were the two cards I found on either side of the Magician. So who am I is part of the Searching the Deck family of readings. So here we have the Queen of Pentacles and the reverse moon. Okay, and I'm going to say what comes into my mind, okay? I think Queen of Pentacles is someone who is very much about location because I see her in her garden. I think she's someone who rules a certain place, okay? And if she's in the right place, she's in her power, she's in her queendom, her kingdom. Hold that in mind. Moon reversed, the moon is a test. And when I see the moon reversed, I think it's not a test. So I am someone, I think, who needs to find his place in the world. And as you know, I'm British, but I've moved to Germany. I moved when I was 51. It was odd. I was over my midpoint in life, but I still had to leave England. And I started again at 51. And I, with a new partner, a new language, a new place, a new town, it was actually, looking back on it, a great upheaval, but I wouldn't have been happy to staying in England. So I was looking for a place to be in the world. And in some sense, I'm still looking for my position in the culture, okay? Am I a tarot reader? Am I a fiction writer? Am I a TV writer? Am I this? Am I that? Am I? I don't know, I could say more. But that's qualified by this, it's not a test. It's not a test. And I need to remember it's not a test, so I need to relax. Okay. And this kind of who am I sketch reading, again, you don't have to take it mega seriously, but this is in a sense what the guides want you to know now. This is how they want to frame it for you now. Okay. So those are the sort of that's the sort of way I use tarot quite a lot, actually. That would be like an evening reading for me because it is a bit philosophical. In the morning, I would be saying, I'd wake up and I'd be feeling a bit crap because it's the morning, and I'd ask, well, what's today about? And the tarot would say, it might say, pull yourself together and do some work, or it might say, don't push yourself, sweetie, have a lovely, quiet day, JD Musing, maybe you are all those things. Maybe I am. Larch Tarot, I'm going to give that a go. Looking forward to the book. Indigo, really like that reading. Thank you for sharing. And I think what I'm going to try to help with in the book is to help people to streamline their tarot practice so that it becomes simple and quick and concise. And I think it may be that a lot of you guys who are watching are already up and running, and it may be that my book is slightly towards beginners. But again, who am I? Maybe I am simply a person who writes a very, very, very good book that introduces people to tarot and also contains some interesting sort of what's the word? Intermediate and advanced knowledge. And it may be that what I say on this channel in my videos is more advanced than what I'm going to do in the book. But if any of you guys have suggestions for the book or requests for the book, write in to me. You can find me on Instagram. I think I'm called Farah Tarot on Instagram. Or you can just comment on one of the videos and I'll get a notification. But thanks for bearing with me. I've been talking solidly for an hour. I haven't lost my voice. I've really appreciated your being here. Thank you for sharing the process of your book to us. It might be for beginners, but it has your perspective. Thank you. When it's available, I need that. I'm a beginner. Okay. Okay. Good. Thank you. Good luck with the book. Bye, everyone. Okay. Bye, everyone. Thanks for being there. It was fun. I'll be back. I can actually tell you when I think I'm probably going to be back. If you'll bear with me, I will give you the... I think I'm going to be back on Sunday the 13th of September. Okay, Sunday the 13th of September. So that's a bit more than a month. But I'm going off on my holidays. I've been working with Tara a bit. I would love anything that would streamline. Good. Let's all streamline. Bye, everyone. Thanks, Nick. Thank you, Indigo. And I hope you also have nice holidays if you're having them, or whatever your relaxation will be. You know, if you're in the Northern Hemisphere and this is the holiday month. Otherwise, have a lovely working August if it's not a holiday month. Bye. Bye.